Witchtok Podcast.
Our speakers would first like to introduce themselves before the podcast will begin.
Hi, I'm Jake. I'm 18 from the United States, and I am a crystal witch.
Hi, my name is Jojo. I am an eclectic witch. I've been practicing for just under a year now.
Hi, I'm Conor. I'm 22 from the US, and I'm a charcoal witch.
Hi everyone, I'm Celtic Hex. I'm a Celtic witch, a traditional Irish witch, and I'm from Ireland.
Hi, my name is Sarah. I'm 15 from Europe, and I've been practicing for a little bit over 2 months.
Hello, my name's Lily. I am 27 years old from the Netherlands, and I've also been practicing for only 2 months now. On this second episode of our podcast, we have decided to invite Miss Celtic Hex to talk to us about the Fae. Mr. Conor will lead us in this conversation.
Okay, well, so there are a lot of misconceptions about working with the Fae. From their intentions to them being sort of entirely bad, which they are not. There's also a lot of sort of mystique. I hate saying that because, like, it's not really true, but, like, there's just a lot of airs put on around them when really they are just primal beings with clear intentions and sort of stances around their interactions with the world and with people. So I guess I'm better at answering questions. In my workings with the Fae, I've had the privilege of working with the Seannachí court on 2 occasions and have avoided working with the Unseannachí court just because I do not have the self-confidence to set those boundaries that have to be so strict with them. So one has to be very careful. Oh, sorry, my dog just showed up. But yeah, these beings have strong intentions, strong wills. They are not like people, so when setting boundaries with them, you have to be substantially more specific because something you might assume as just a given is not for them. And so making that mistake can be the root of a lot of problems. And by not allowing sort of the space, I'm sort of rambling at this point, but it's really just be specific in what you are wanting to get out of a relationship or an agreement or a work with them, and be specific with what you are willing to give. Because if you do not set those hard boundaries, as with anything in magic, you can get royally hurt. Celtic Hex, if you'd like to jump in at any point with
Sure, yeah, I can talk. And sorry, I thought you were doing an introduction for yourself. I didn't know I was meant to be talking. I suppose I could give you a rundown of the Irish Fae, where they come from, all the different types, wherever you want to start, really.
I know quite a bit of it comes from the stories of like the Children of Lear is a big one.
Tierna Nog.
Yep. Sort of one of the many myths about Aoife is of the Fae. So, like, just wherever you want to go with that, seeing as my Fae dealings have been more Scottish leaning than Irish.
Well, in Ireland, we would call the Fae folk Ace She. And that's just the terminology from them. And under the Aishe, we would also come in with the Seannachí and Unseannachí court. And the Seannachí would be the more friendly type of Fae, and the Unseannachí would be the more man-hating type of Fae. That's the way we would see it. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and like you said, yeah, they are very, very misunderstood, but I think they're misunderstood in both ways. They can be incredibly lucky if you treat them with respect, but if you insult them or slight them, the Irish stories have a very dark history with them and what they will do to you. Um, so it goes back where our fae comes from. I don't know if you want to go back to the Tuatha Dé Danann.
Yeah, sure, of course. I mean, you can't be
Okay.
talking about the
So the Fae were originally the Tuatha Dé Danann, the people of Danu, and that would be the mother goddess as well. And Manon MacLear and all the other gods and goddesses would have come from Danu, and they were in Ireland, and then they got invaded by the Malaysians, and the Malaysians won. And they say the Malaysians won because where the Tuatha Dé Danann were fighting with, like, clubs and sticks and things like that, the Malaysians came over with iron, which we all know the Fae don't like. So this is the origins of that. And they won them, and Manon MacLear then had to lead them underground. And that's where the goddess Danu gifted them with their magical powers. So they are sort of a lesser deity in Ireland, would be the Fae. So that's the story of how the Celts came about on Topland, and the Fae were drove underground. And that is where their little size also comes from, because they say over time they had to shrink under the ground. But the Irish Fae would not be the Fae pixie Fae like Tinkerbell with little wings and things like
No.
that. I think, if I'm correct, they would be English Fae.
Yeah, that would be English and Welsh Fae are definitely Welsh Fae are often more what people associate with like brownies and sprites. Where the
Yeah,
English Fae are your typical like stereotypical fairies.
yeah, pixies we call them, with the
Yeah.
little wings and the fairy dust and things like that. No, they're not the Irish Fae. And the Welsh, Scottish, and Ireland, and including England, they're all Sealy, Unseelie, and Ace She. They wouldn't be the nice Fae. And I mean, there's a few Fae here I have wrote down I could tell you about. Um, so just tell me if I'm talking too much, because I'll
Not at
talk
all.
forever. Do you know what I
Oh,
mean? No problem.
Oh, go
But
yeah, I'd
bananas.
listen.
the
Absolutely.
the biggest
I
one.
guess we can transition into just a little bit talking about our specific workings with them, just so people have like a sense of what that's like.
Yeah.
So, Celtic, if you want to give us a go
Talk
with your
about the.
specific, yeah,
Well, I was going to bring up a fae that everyone knows, and they mightn't know that it's a fae, and that's the Banshee, fairy woman. She I know she instills a lot of fear into people, but she's only a harbinger of death. She does no harm to people. There's the leprechaun, the puka, the Doulahan, the Merrow, the Grogok. There's many, many, many of them. And I suppose the most famous stories of them are the stories of changelings that we've all heard. And that comes about because the Fae, after being drove underground, the female Fae have a problem with fertility. So if they do manage to get pregnant, it's said they don't manage to carry the baby to full term. And if they do, it's weak, with brittle bones and a lot of problems. And what they tend to do then is they will go off, and and there's sayings as well, that how they pick the changeling, the human baby, is if the parents don't give it enough attention, if they're not giving it enough love, they will take that baby instead of the changeling baby and give the changeling baby to the human. And what they're doing there is they're trying to strengthen their bloodline. They will bring it back to the other world and raise it up as a fairy, and then it will be like it will breed with the Fae, and that's how you get like the Grogok and the leprechaun, or the Grogok and yeah, it is the leprechaun, sorry, which would be half human, half Fae.
yeah.
You
I
know,
guess I forget always that the Banshee is under that classification.
Yeah, she is, and everyone's kind of scared of her. But she is not the scariest fae out
Oh,
there.
not
You
by at
know.
all. Yeah, well,
Um.
because I also love sort of the origin story of the banshee with Cleana and how she's I always forget if she was mortal beloved by gods or a goddess in her own right, but of healing and life, and sort of similarly to Bridget, but then died in an accident or something and basically became the first banshee.
Yeah. I'm unsure of her origins now. You know that way. I just know she's tied into the Morrigan.
Yeah,
But I wouldn't know her origin story. Sorry about that.
no
You
worries.
know.
Yeah, it's so basically she's a goddess of beauty and life, and love, and then let me find the end of the myth. Ba, 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 is killed, becomes a banshee.
Oh, bless her.
Basically, yeah,
Yeah.
becomes the first banshee and then mother of banshees. She's
Right.
very cool. I've always liked that aspect. You can see it in Japanese mythology, but like sort of this beautiful thing dies and then becomes a new equally powerful aspect. It's like the two sides of the Margan between their warlike sides and then their Enu side.
Yeah. Their loving side.
Yeah. Anyway, with my sorry, we're getting sidetracked just because I love all this stuff. Oh, but in my workings with the Fae, I have the two times I have worked with the Sealy Court. The first was I was moving into a new apartment, and it's kind of a weird little place, but I really like it. And so, beyond asking my goddesses for protection, I also discovered a wee bit of bone in one of my cabinets. And of course, I was like, well, let's see where this came from. Um, read my tarot, um, got a reading saying basically trust your gut, go with what you think. And then that night, I had a dream uh, saying to keep of me putting the stone in sort of the base of the hearth of my fireplace in my apartment. And so I was like, you know what? This is a very clear sign. And so I said, thank you, Sealy. You are welcome here in this home to protect and to be safe yourself, but no more. No taking, no. So just sort of setting very clear boundaries like, yes, you can be safe in this space, only if I can remain safe as well.
Yeah.
So that was my first interaction, and I've kept it in my fireplace ever since. And I love this apartment to death, and it's been a great space for me. And then the second time I work with them is a generous term, but having worked with them in the past, a good friend sort of betrayed me, and it was very rude and very unfortunate. And so I sort of, and this goes into what we talked about last time with hexing and whatnot, but I put together a karmic jar, basically, and then put it in my fireplace next to the bone and said, hey, can you help me send this on its way? They have basically brought shame and sadness onto the house that we here live and protect. If I could have help on sending this sort of justice on its way, that would be wonderful. And well, the person is still not succeeding in life, so very
Oh, they can be
efficacious.
quite protective of their humans when they like them. Yeah.
Exactly. So he was supposed to be a teacher, but he has yet to pass his teacher certification test. He has failed 3 times now.
Gosh.
So
Well, they do say, see, with the gifts that if you get, a little tooth or a bone or something of that kind, that's an unseelie.
well, yeah, but I that's what I thought too. That's why I was very careful about it when I first uh found it. But I mean, it was very, very smooth. And I'd have to go back and check and see if, because I've had fires in the fireplace since. I guess I need to go back, and I don't want to break it in half, but I want to see if it's actually bone or if it was just like
Glass.
glass
Yeah,
with
they say,
calcium coat,
yeah, the
because
Sealy
there's a
will
lot
leave
of that in the water around where my apartment is. And so like seeing a piece of glass with a big calcium deposit that would look like a bone
yeah.
could
That's
be
like
very
the Sealy
possible.
will leave, like flowers or pretty stones and,
Mhm.
things like that. And then
Yeah,
the Unseelie would leave, the little bit
the
darker
bone, the tooth,
gifts.
yeah.
But
Well,
the
that's
Unseelie, if they like you, again, will still protect and look after you,
yeah, that's true. Though they can be a little bit ornerier.
They are a bit more vengeful, we'll say,
Yeah.
than the
Well,
other Sealie.
and and they are less apt to pick and protect.
Yeah.
Okay, so Lily is just tuned in to sort of guide our conversation as both of us have a little more knowledge. For new witches who have no clue
Right.
about the Fae and their workings,
Okay.
what should they do when they find an offering or something like that?
Well, the Fae, good or bad, but the warnings for people is in case it's the Unsully.
Mm,
Unseelie, sorry, the Unseelie that are might be trying to trick the person, but it could be a present of a Seelie, which is a friendly fae, and it's perfectly fine to take the gift. That's a nice thing that they're doing for you, but it's what everyone warns against is saying thank you for the gift because that's an insult to them. It's a slight to them, and the number one rule when working with the fae is to show respect at all times. If you say thank you for a gift, it's like you're slighting, you're insulting them, and they feel that they have to give you another gift. You're not just taking their present. You're it's they have to pay off the debt of you saying thank you to them.
yeah. And in that thank you, even you can, at least from my research, I think you can also be taken as like a binding contract, basically, where like you're accepting this gift and they can now enter, or it basically gives free reign through that acceptance.
Yeah, that would be the Unseelie.
Unseelie, yeah.
Yeah.
So an unseelie gift, thinking for that can give, basically through acceptance of that gift, you are accepting them and all their will and sort of
Well, if you accept an Unseelie's gift, you are admitting that you are a lesser being to them and will serve them.
yeah. Well, and that's a very hard line to ride with the Fae, because yes, in fact, you are a lesser being, but
Yeah.
and being part of being respectful for them is understanding that and being deferential, but not submissive. You need to show absolutely the utmost respect at all times, but also, again, it's back to boundaries. It's utmost respect, but do not ever agree to give more than you properly can, because they can and will take you at your words, and off you go.
All you need, well, this is what the Irish used to do, and anyway, all you need to offer them is like with a deity, you would put out your weekly offering to your deity. It's the same with the Fae. The Irish would always leave a glass of milk on their windowsill, and that was enough respect for the Fae to stop them from being destructive or anything like that. It doesn't have to be an expensive gift or something, you're right, that is taken from you, but a little glass of milk or a little sweet treat once a week, and they are happy that respect is being shown and will be more than happy to bestow you with luck.
Or even the first slice of bread from a loaf, like
Anything, absolute anything that has meaning to you,
yeah.
I'm
'Cause-
going
Okay.
to interject a little bit because I'm a new witch. I've been doing this
Right.
for 2 months. I've been interested a very, very long time. I just never had the chance to do it, but I've now just started it. I, as a person, would be terrified of working with the Fae because I don't know as much about it, and this is a very good introduction for me, but still I wouldn't feel comfortable enough working with them. If I wanted to respectfully decline working with the Fae after finding little gifts from them, how would I go about that?
The same, just by showing showing the respect, still putting out the glass and milk. You're not entering, you're not working with them by doing this. You're just simply showing respect. But if you can take the gift and not work with them, it's the unseelie. So that's what you look out for, what the gift may be. If it's a bit of bone or a bit of glass, just leave it. You know, just act like you don't see it. If it's in your house and you have to get rid of it, just bin it and put a glass of milk out or a cookie, you know. Because the good thing about unseelies is they tend to be solitary. And if you show respect, they will just walk on by and look for the next person. If it is seelie, you do want to invite them in because they are wonderful to have in your life, and will show an awful lot of respect. But if you take their gift, even if you say thank you, it can all be, made right by giving offerings and things like that and explaining yourself and putting your offering out. I have heard of people burying their stuff, but I've only heard that on Witchtok. I've never heard that through my own life or through stories. But for people as well that want to find out more about the Fae, if you go onto YouTube and look up Seannachís, they are Irish storytellers, and pretty much it's a traditional path themselves. Their stories have been passed down for generations, and they put them up on YouTube now, and you can look them up and you'll find out an awful lot about the Fae from the old Celts, the old Irish as well, and how to deal with them and things like that. So
Well,
that is a good thing for a beginner, you know.
Oh,
yeah,
that's a
and
very
especially
good thing.
because a
Oh.
lot of the story. Sorry.
No, it's okay.
Especially because a lot of the stories not passed down in the oral tradition, the ones that have made their way into published books and the internet, a lot of them are the Christianized version of them. Like
Yes, yeah,
the only story of the children of Lear you can find pretty much anywhere is the one that's literally just
Christian.
them converting to
Yes.
Christianity. When there is more behind that story than
And
just
that's a huge thing a lot of people don't know about the Fae either, is they don't like Christianity at all.
Nope.
I
I
don't mean to be being mean or anything, but if you go and research it and look it up, you'll find they do not like Christianity. And I think that is because Christianity told them that they would never set foot in heaven, and they have a bee in their bonnet now because that was said.
Yeah. And they came in and sort of stomped on their stories and took them and twisted them and
that also, yes.
took well, and just to show the true strength of, and one of the reasons I feel, other than lineage, so connected to the Celtic and Gaelic pantheons and stories and myths and practices, is because of how strong-willed it was in the face of Christianity.
Yes.
To the point where
we adapt.
The goddesses literally, like, they could not get rid of some of these goddesses, so they were just like, we can't do anything about it. Let's make them a saint and call it a day.
That's it, Bridget. Yeah, Ireland's sweetheart. She wasn't going anywhere, but that's what the Irish do. And from the traditional standpoint as well, we just adapt. We adapt to the circumstances that we're in. We were oppressed for so long. We just adapt to it by so many different people. But if you want to talk about the strength of the Fae, if you go and look up the Curse of Tara, it's absolutely phenomenal, and it would be a more modern tale about the Fae. You've probably heard about it, the $100 million or euro road that was being built, and it got delayed because it was going through a fairy tree and a fairy mount. And a Seannachí, I was telling you about, the Irish storyteller, went to the government. The locals protested. This was in 1999, and a Seannachí went and warned them that they would risk death if you interfere with the fairies' homes, and he got laughed out of government. And then in 2007, I have it wrote down here, there's so much to it, they went ahead with it, and they knocked, in June 2007, the Minister for the Environment, Dick Roach was his name, signed an order destroying one of the henges, a 4,000-year-old structure. He was then held up by an armed gang at Druids Glen Hotel in Wicklow. He lost his job. He was demoted. The same year, the Chief Health and Safety Officer was seriously injured when a tree they began working on with the road fell on him. Then the Minister for Transport, Martin Cullen, was nearly sucked from a helicopter when his door flew off in midair. A human tooth was found in a digger around the road, because they say they used to bring people to dance and play instruments for them and stuff like that. The museum was sent to the National Museum, where the marble staircase collapsed in. And in the summer, after the work commenced, the motorway started to get large wasp nests all up and down where they were working. And in Celtic lore, the appearance of wasps' nests is a sign that Mother Earth is very, very angry with people. So I thought that was super interesting there, up to 2007, of what the Fae can do.
Yeah, well, and even I didn't know about the wasps, which I definitely should have, but that just puts into focus even current events now, with murder hornets showing up in the US. Like, oh, whoop-de-doo, hooray.
Yeah, they're very, very territorial on where they live. And that's a big, big thing new witches or pagans or anyone really needs to look out for, is if you come across a fairy fort or a fairy ring, you don't walk through it, you don't pick the flowers around it, you don't step on the flowers or the mushrooms. And if you do it accidentally, which does happen, you leave an offering. If you have something on you, you can put down, do it. If not, put out a glass of milk that night, because it is said they do follow you home. But if you show the respect, they take the respect, they leave you be and go on their way.
I love this story about the mounds and coming across them, because this reminds me of a children's TV show in the Netherlands that I saw when I was a kid, when I was like 8 years old. There was an episode about Ireland where they were talking about this, which is just bonkers to me that this like gets into TV shows in different countries, because it's such a big part of the culture that it gets picked up in other countries as well. I love that.
Yeah, but don't forget, every country has Fae. Every country, every culture has Fae in it. If you go researching it, like the Native Americans have them, they just come under different names. Fae originates from Ireland, but they have your sprites, your water sprites, your forest sprites, your forest guardians, all these
your
things.
Nymphs,
they're all they're all
dryads,
Fae.
all of them.
They're all connected. You know? Am I talking too much?
No. This is good. This is good. This is why we invited you. You're the person who knows so much about this stuff, and there's a lot of...
Well, I know because I made such a huge mistake with them.
Oh, please do tell,
know.
because that is very interesting for all the new witches, because our Witchtok Discord has so many new witches that just started months ago, that this would be very interesting for.
Well, when I first joined TikTok and started putting my content up, and I kind of clashed with the Americans a little bit with my views on the Fae, because they were like, "What? Why do you hate the Fae so much?" And I was like, I don't hate them. I'm terrified of them, because growing up in Ireland, you are warned against the Fae. Don't cross the Fae. Don't anger the Fae. Don't do this on the Fae. Every Irish person has the fear in them from the Fae, and they really had a very pixie notion of them with the wings and really sweet little fairies. And I had to explain to them, no, not in Ireland. We have fae that like pluck the eyes out of your head for looking at them or pull your arms off. A lot darker. But what happened was I would work a lot with hagstones, and I have since I was 13 years of age. I would find them, I'd bring them home, I would sit them on my altar, and then when the time arrived, I might make a little protection charm for my family, the house, pets, friends, loved ones, and incorporate the hagstone into it. And it was only when I was talking to my mother-in-law not long ago, a few months ago, and I was talking to her because I'd done a TikTok on hagstones, and I knew they were called witches stones and Odin stones and holy stones as well. Sorry. And she went, "Oh yeah, they're also fairy stones." And I never heard of them being called fairy stones. She goes, "Yeah, go look it up. They're fairy stones." So off I went looking it up, and I absolutely wanted the ground to open me up and swallow me. A full night of research, and I realised, and now this only applies to witches, which is why it was probably buried. If you take a hagstone and place it on your altar, you are binding a fae to the stone to do your bidding. So you are basically enslaving them. So I would take my hagstones, I would enslave the fae, and then I would make a protection charm for someone, give it to them, and literally was demanding that the fae go protect them and look after them. So I absolutely nearly had a heart attack, tried to figure out how to make this better. A lot of research ensued. And the only thing I could think of to get out of it or find about it was the offerings. But I really expected a very, very bad kickback from this. So first of all, what I did is I released them by oath, which is a big thing with the fae, is giving an oath. So I released them by oath from the hagstones. I was no longer binding them. I told them I would put them out weekly offerings. I told them I would make them a little home in the garden and all these things. And then I actually was waiting for the backlash for them to come and do something absolutely horrific on me. And what happened was my hairbrush would start to disappear all the time. That's the worst thing that happened. And I obviously realised very quickly then it was the Seannachí, and they were absolutely just the sweetest little things I'd ever met. There was no comeback at all. I set up their homes, I put treats out for them, and only the other day I got a really good sign. Every year in my garden I would have snowbells, one or two little snowbells, and I was going out the other day and my garden was covered in them, and I went, they are absolutely beautiful. I'm going to go check them out, see what's being said about them. And of course I landed on a little site that says wherever the fae go, snowbells will follow. So obviously making the little home for them, they've invited along all their other Seannachí friends. So I'm hoping to have a lot of luck now in the future. So the moral of the story is, don't place hagstones on your altar.
Oh, wow. I didn't even know that was a thing.
Wow.
Either did I.
And I saw your TikTok about the snowbells. It was indeed a lot. Like,
Yeah,
whew.
a lot. Which makes me wonder, now this is only my personal opinion, I don't know, but it makes me wonder, are they, because my husband made a very good point to me. When I said I'd give them somewhere to live, and he said that was a really, really good thing to say to them. He said, because when we did fight with them and they went underground, we did always promise them that they would have somewhere to live. So that seems to be what saved my neck with the fae. And I wonder if there may be short of homes, above ground where they want to live with humans and interact with their humans. So you don't have to work with them, but it mightn't be a bad idea to put a little fairy house in your garden.
And how would you go about that?
Just put it out. Once you start putting your offerings out, they'll come to you. You don't have to talk to them. Nothing like that. It really, really is an exchange.
I mean the home. How do you do that?
Oh, you just put out a little fairy house, or I bought mine. I'm not very creative. I don't have a creative gift, but I know loads of people make little fairy homes out of logs or plant pots, or if you go onto Pinterest, there's a million ideas. You just need to put a little home out for them. Just welcome them, basically.
Or
If
like
you
doors in the bottom of a tree or something, in a hole in the bottom of a tree.
No,
or...
that doesn't work. That's
okay.
Little fake doors like that don't work. That's for children
okay.
to safely interact with the fae by not interacting with the fae.
Aha! That's a very good thing to know.
Yeah, but no, just putting out it's the significance of it. They're not necessarily going to go and live in this. It just lets them see that they are welcome. The biggest thing is the offering, is to put out the milk or a sugar cookie, things like that, that they like, a little bit of honey. They love pet hair because they do take it to sleep in, it is said, feathers, pet hair, things like that. They'll take it as the respect, and what they give back in exchange is phenomenal luck, and you get touched by their magic, and they can gift humans with singing voices, they can gift them musically, they can, give them the gift of language. So someone in your house could end up being fluent in 10 languages. That could be a gift from the fae. Obviously, they'd have to learn them. I'm not going to say they're going to wake up speaking tongues or anything,
No.
They'll they'll have their gifts in places like that. And the thing as well is, a lot of people think the fae and Celts don't get on, but we do, because after they were drove underground, we did breed with them, let's say. And it is us they tend to come to take the children, and they will leave. And this is the way as well, an awful lot of people worry about a changeling, but the rule is Tom is do not harm, because they can do it to adults too, is do not harm it, treat it well, and its counterpart will get treated well. And the best thing to do with a changeling, it's said, is it's usually sickly, and that's why they swap it over for the human child. If you can nurse it back, feed it well, build it up, usually the fae parents will want their own child back and will come back and swap again and give you your child. But sometimes they leave what's called a stock. It's a piece of wood, and it's magically charmed, and it appears like your child. And what happens is it just appears to be wasting away, and then it dies, and then all of a sudden it's just a bit of wood left in the crib or whatnot. But they would take adults as well. They were very fond of taking, men and women in their early 20s. But if they want to integrate them into their society, they will take the younger the better, the babe, so that they can raise them as one of their own.
Oh, I'm glad I'm late 20s then.
Yeah. Yeah. But it was a huge belief by the Irish that this could happen quite commonly. And some people say this was said to explain, things like if a child was born with Down syndrome, they think it was a changeling, and they would say these things. But then there's other stories where, you just don't know. You just don't know what's going on. It can't be explained.
Definitely.
Yeah, I started my work with the Fae at 21, so
yeah,
we'll see.
I'm wondering, because we have a panel of more people here who have this far not said a lot or asked a lot. Are there questions from anyone from our panel to Miss Celtic?
I don't think so. Not from me anyway.
Okay.
Is anyone really insulted about my views on the Fae?
No.
Oh no!
You're perfectly fine.
Because that's the first thing I noticed when I went on. Is now they're not my views; these are Irish views. It's not my personal opinions. Just to let you know, guys, I actually now very, very fond of them, especially because I wake up every morning and all my body parts are still there. Because in Ireland, the Fae, if they're insulted, even this is the difference between the Sully and Unsully. I'm getting mixed up with Game of Thrones. The Sealy and Unsealy.
I was just about to say.
Yeah, I am. Always happens to me. Is the Sealy, if you cross them or show disrespect, will kind of give you a little warning sign that you're doing it, and they let you offer out the milk, or try and make amends with them. Where the Unsealy can be quite vindictive and have been known to pluck the eye that has seen them, rip arms off, rip legs off, rip heads off. And that's the Doulahan as well, would be the headless horseman. He is also a fae.
Owie.
And it's the same story as every other headless horseman you would hear about, rides around with his head on his arm and uses a human spine as his whip.
That gives a lovely image.
I did not hear that version.
Yeah.
That's the part that's unique to the Doulahan.
Oh.
That's it. The unique thing is the Irish one has a spine as a whip. There's the Merrow, the mermaid folk as well, and then the cute little leprechaun that everyone likes. He, they are usually always male because they would be, I don't know the right terminology. I don't want to say crossbreed. It sounds terrible, but they would be half human, half fae. So they're nearly always born male. There'd be no females to reproduce with. But they are, if you leave them alone, it's fine. They're, cheeky Irish chops. They can disguise themselves as human males. Always up for a laugh, a bit of crack and a good time. But if you cross them, they are the ones that will take your baby and leave the changeling. It's the leprechaun does that. So he's not as nice as everyone thinks.
Yeah, he's not the chap that dances on top of the pot of gold.
Oh, he is? Well, no, not a pot of gold, but he definitely loves his dancing. And his beer and things like that, but it's only if crossed you see the nasty side of them.
Yeah, then you get the one from the movie Leprechaun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fiction completely, leprechaun on steroids kind of thing,
And how do you feel about that? Them, the fae being portrayed that way in fiction?
It doesn't bother me. I'm not insulted or anything by it. It's just people telling stories and, making movies. Sometimes they're good movies, sometimes they're not. But it would take a lot to insult me or get a rise out of me, that way. I'm pretty chill when it comes to things like that. No, I don't mind it at all. All cultures are going to have, things like that made out of their mythology and,
Because we've talked about it last week about witchcraft in general in movies and other like public media, that witchcraft itself is portrayed as like demonic and stuff, which is comes from the Catholic faith and is not a part of witchcraft, because we don't like summon the devil and that sort of thing, because the devil is something made by the Christian faith, so not all witches believe in that.
Poor Cernunnos got the blame. Cernunnos got the blame for being the devil.
Yeah, and are there things in that are misconceptions about the fae that you haven't talked about yet that you think are like interesting to know about?
Misconceptions just about their looks, really, that they're not the pixie type of fae. That's the biggest thing I find, and that people think they're generally just little tricksters, which if you get the Sealy, they can be. That's a little way to bond with you. But if they're not the Sealy, it can work out very dark, because they do have the power to take life. And the way the Unsealy would do it is they would very slowly drain your life force from you. And that's where the withering away and, eventually dying comes from. And even up to 2007, I know they could be construed as, nothing to do with the fae, but anyone that kind of tried to build a road had, you know, a very, very, what I would take as a clear warning to stop what they were doing. And eventually, you'll see that in Ireland as well. You'll find an awful lot of windy roads, and people think they're just these windy roads, when most of the time they're winding around a fairy tree, so as not to knock down the fairy tree for the road. So the Irish believe very, very strongly in them and the power of them, and that they're not, you know, don't lose the point that they, you know, they were warriors and they can inflict harm. As much good as they can do, they can also be bad. There's my stark warning again about them. You are probably expecting me to come on and go, they're the sweetest, gorgeous little things that fly around.
I'm honestly glad that you're so honest, because it gives a very good view for new witches in what to be cautious of and what you can and cannot do with the fae. So I'm just glad that you're giving such a full review of this, because there is like a lot of people who come into this Discord and are like, yeah, I got a gift from the fae, what should I do? And now we can just say, okay, listen to this podcast, this will give you like a basic overview, and you can make up your mind what you want to do after, which is, I think, a very good way to explain things in a way that you don't have to like say it over and over and over and over again, or give like a standard answer. This is just a way where we can look back on and say, okay, that's a very good way that you can be introduced to a topic, and it's a very easy way to like know what you need to know.
There's also the other side of the coin where you have, you know, the seely ones, like you have the Grogok, you'd have the Merrow, the Grogok, bless them, I put a TikTok up on them. They're this hairy crossbreed again. They came from Scotland to Ireland, and they would live in a cave, and they would wait for a human to go by that they liked. And they have the gift of invisibility, so they don't show themselves unless they want to be seen. And they would follow that human home, and to try and be friends, they would do any chores that the human would have. They would try and just fix everything for the human. But the only problem is they're so clumsy. They're oafs that people tend to want to get rid of them in the end, because as much as they're trying to be nice and helpful, they're breaking things and knocking things over and, you know, trampling flowers and crops and scaring the chickens and livestock and things like that. So they're little sweethearts, bless them. And you also have your Merrow. The males maybe not the nicest fairy out there, but the females would be very sweet and would they would like to take the male humans as their lovers and even marry them and come onto land. And there's a lot of stories about them as well, marrying into humans, marrying human males and things like that. So for as bad as they are, if they are disrespected and crossed, if you are on their good side and are interacting with them well, you don't even have to work with them. Even if you're putting offerings out and they're welcome around your home, they will bless you with immense luck, and they do protect. They are a minor deity. They will protect the human as well, and they will keep, if you have Seely around, you won't get unseely around, or the Doulahan, or, you know, anything like that, because they'll be looking after you. So there is really good points to them as well. Just, you know, to let you know.
Oh, that's very good. I'm sorry, I've kind of taken over from Conor, because I said that Conor would be the one to lead this.
That's
this
okay.
podcast.
No, I am glad, because I have more experience. I always forget about all these like little bitty things that I wouldn't even think to ask, because of course you need to like function with a healthy dose of fear. Like that's honestly how I've been taking my perspective in my witchcraft anyway, which is just, if you're not sure, be afraid until research proves otherwise.
Mhm.
The Irish way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you should be doing
exactly.
that with any of
Like,
your
yeah.
practice. Like, regardless of what you're working with, you should have that healthy dose of fear because you
Yeah.
don't want to take that wrong step and offend something that you probably shouldn't have offended in the first place.
Yeah. So
And a big thing, if you don't mind me adding in, but I'd like to say as well, is TikTok it's an amazing platform and everything like that. But go look it up yourself as well. If you can get a book or go onto YouTube or Google it, always check out the facts and information for yourself because you'll always find out much more than anyone can tell you by going
double
and
check your
researching
sources.
yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is
Mhm.
also
Always double check your
yeah.
sources.
Yeah, that is also like why this podcast is a thing, is because you cannot put that much information in 15 seconds or a minute.
Yeah. Right.
So people are making like series of 5 TikToks after each other explaining stuff, and this is just a very laid back, easy way where you can just put it on in the background, start drawing, because I already saw like someone that's in this podcast and just doesn't have any questions. They're just drawing by themselves and listening into what you have to say, and that is exactly what this podcast is for. A very laid back, easy way to get a lot of starter information for you to go off of and go like, okay, that is an interesting thing, I'd have to look that up.
I'll tell you, I was afraid I was after shocking you all with my views, and he's like, "Oh God, I'm horrified."
No.
Poor Faye,
No.
Not at all.
No, not at all.
That is a thing that is one of the rules in the Witchtok Discord's little plug link down below. If you want to join our Discord, one of the rules that we have is respect. I think that's also the first rule that we have, is respect each other and each other's beliefs, and each other's knowledge as well, because it's important to utilize each other by the knowledge and beliefs that you have, because there's people like you have been practicing 20 years, I believe, or longer. Well,
Yeah.
you have a lot of experience and knowledge, and that is very good for the younger people to listen to and to start out with. And yeah, it's just,
And
Yes.
it also shows it doesn't matter how much experience you have, you can still make mistakes, such as myself
Definitely.
with my hagstones.
definitely.
Like I was doing that since I was 13, and I'm 40 now, and I only found out at 40. That shows the good sign of the good side of the fae as well. Because if someone had me binded for that long and then set me free, going, "Oops, sorry, I didn't know I was doing that," I wouldn't just rub their hairbrush and have a giggle about it,
Yeah.
Oof.
So I was very, very lucky in how I was treated by them after. But I do think they knew it was an accident, because obviously they'd be around me and they'd see me on a daily basis, just, myself. And I think they just were like, she's just an
Yeah.
idiot,
You weren't standing by your altar going,
was no-
I'm gonna put this hagstone on. Yeah, no, it's not happening.
Yeah, completely. It was completely an accident, and it was completely innocent. So,
Oh, that's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
I think we're gonna round this part of the podcast off. And ending that conversation, we're gonna go on to the Witchtok news.
For our astro forecast, I'm gonna review back to May real quick. May 22nd is our new moon, and May 29th is our first quarter, which leads us into the month of June. June 5th is our full moon. I'm going to say this every time. For our novice witches, if you don't have any moon water, that's a great night to make some. Also, May 22nd is a great night to make some. June 13th is our last quarter. Like I said, June 21st is our new moon. And then June 28th is our first quarter. Now for the news. A 19-year-old single mother recently died in Virginia after summoning Papa Legba, which is the intermediary witch between our earth plane and our spirit plane. Now I am talking about Haitian / Bayou type voodoo. So it's a closed practice. I would say she was in my source, and I'll get the link and it'll be in the description somewhere. She was in a Facebook group about said voodoo and, you know, this voodoo witchery that she was doing. And someone in said group said that she did a reading on her, on this girl, and didn't see Papa Legba, but she saw Baron Samudi, the voodoo god of death. And all I have to say is it's such a tragedy to see this happen in the community, and all of our condolences go out to the family. There is a GoFundMe page for her daughter's college fund. If you would like to donate, I will find the link, and it'll also be in the description. And for my favorite section, our witchy tip. So I'm gonna start off by saying I'm not really experienced in color or candle magic, but what I do know is that a white candle can substitute any other colored candle, and it doesn't even have to be your fancy white spell candle. It can be just a candle from Walmart. Like I have a candle from Yankee Candle that happens to be white, and I use it. So like it doesn't have to be fancy.
And with that, I want to thank everyone for listening to this second version of our Witchtok podcast. I want to give special thanks to our guest, Miss Celtic Hex. I'm sure we will see her back another podcast because she's been such a lovely guest. And I'd like to invite you all till the next time. Bye!
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 Bye, guys!
Thanks for listening to the Witchtok Podcast. If you enjoyed, press the like button and leave a comment. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell to be kept up to date with new episodes.